Hey everyone, long-time skeptic here, first-time poster. Not sure what to think about all of this. Yesterday I was hiking off trail on top of a steep ridge that I had to take an abandoned / possible animal trail to get to, and discovered a leather boot. It had probably been there for a while based on how the leather had curled, as in at least a few months or maybe years. It was a nice looking boot otherwise, kinda like an Iron Ranger but with tread. Normally I'd think someone dropped their gear that sucks and put it by a trail sign for someone to find, but it's very difficult to get up to this ridge even when in hiking boots. I can't imagine hiking down barefoot. The trail is super steep, loose, unmaintained and overgrown, and from what I know, not on any maps. It's in a canyon very close to a major city, and you can even see the city from the top, but the plant growth is very thick and it gets snow 6 months of the year. The boot looked like it was deliberately placed under a small tree, i.e. not like it fell there, and well, it's a boot. It's not the kind of thing to normally fall off a pack. It gives me a strange feeling, and watching Mr. Bolin on YouTube talk about the missing 411 cases after I got home didn't help. The canyon / ridge are on UFS land but are maintained by a private contractor. I wouldn't even know who to contact, or even if I should contact anyone. People do go missing here, and we have a lot of mountain lions and black bears. I hike a lot with my dog. It is a skilled hunting dog, and she's alerted me a few times when we've been followed by something. I frequently see signs of mountain lion kills, particularly in the spring after the snow melts and the trail reopens. In 2 trees in particular, I've seen some strange stuff though. Their legs impaled on the main trunk at head height. But the trees are 15 feet tall. On my hike yesterday I saw USF trail game cams mounted on these 2 trees, so I know I'm not the only person with questions. What do I do? By the way, I tried posting this a few times, but it didn't seem to post, so I'm sorry if it is there multiple times. Edit. Deer pelvis pics is gross and not safe for work, so I took it down. Edit 2. I notified the Forest Service and they're taking an interest in it. I provided them with the location and directions. Edit 3. Are gnarly not safe for work pictures kosher here? People seem to be taking an interest in the deer parts that I found. I have a picture on my phone, and I'm wondering if these can be shared. I mean, it is weird and gross, so I understand if I can't post it.
Bessie and Glenn Hyde were honeymooning in northern Arizona at the Grand Canyon when they vanished. They were traveling down the Colorado River by scow in October 1928 and planned a boat through the Grand Canyon. Bessie would have been the first woman ever to do so successfully. Glenn had run tough rivers before, but Bessie was a boating newbie. The couple ran across other boaters a few weeks before their disappearance, who said they got the feeling that Bessie wanted to turn back, but Glenn was pushing her on. If they completed the trip successfully, they could go on a paid lecture tour. So, this trip was more than just fun. There was money at stake. Cut to several months later, the Hydes' boat was discovered that winter, seemingly undisturbed. It was upright and full of supplies, but the couple was gone. There are many theories about what happened to the Hydes. Did they disembark and try a too difficult side hike? Did they have an argument that turned violent? Or were they abducted? There are conflicting reports about what happened to the Hydes, and more than one Bessie Hyde sighting in the years that followed. A 27-year-old Irishman visiting Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming has been missing since June 2021. The last known sighting of Dublin native Kyan McLaughlin pinpoints him heading in the direction of Taggart Lake. This is located on an 8-mile trail that is very difficult in nature. When he didn't show up for work, he was reported missing. He held dual U.S. and Irish citizenship. His car was found nearby and kicked off a search that formally ended 2 weeks later. 45 helicopters searched, and other high-tech tools have yet to reveal any information about his whereabouts. His family and the U.S. National Park Service have since put out a poster with a photo and details, as well as the hashtag #FindKeon, to help him top of mind for visitors to the area. The disappearance is extra puzzling, as his uncle described that particular trailhead as his favorite. Another hiker reported seeing McLaughlin without a backpack, so it appeared that he had just gone out for a walk.
Missing 24-year-old found dead near the Des Plaines River outside of Chicago. No foul play suspected. On Jan 22, 22, a young man from Anach crashed his car in the highway guardrail, then swerved back into traffic and hit a car. The two pulled over into the median, and he then fled the scene, running into the woods. This occurred in Libertyville, a wealthy Chicago suburb. Luckily, it doesn't seem the other driver was hurt. The young man was on his way to have lunch with his parents after seeking counseling for his mental health earlier that day. His parents reported to the media that he'd been struggling with his mental health due to working from home during the pandemic. He lived with his friends in a downtown Chicago apartment and had recently extended his stay with his parents due to his mental health issues. Despite all of this, his family stressed his productivity. Before running into the woods, he left his personal cell phone in his vehicle, which his parents later tracked to the lot where the car had been towed, as it was completely ruined. The only evidence investigators ever found in the coming days was his work cell phone, located in the middle of the woods in Metawa, another wealthy Chicago suburb in proximity of the Libertyville crash site. Just 2 days ago, on February 11th, his family announced a $10,000 reward for information relating to his disappearance. This is the same day a kayaker spotted the young man's North Face jacket shoreside on the Des Plaines River near Libertyville and called police. Due to the river conditions, police could not retrieve the body until today, the 15th of February. Police have not explained why he swerved his car into the median, or why he then swerved back into traffic and hit someone's car. Upon finding his body, police have ruled out foul play. I'm from the area, so I've been following this missing persons case closely for the past 3 weeks. I wish peace for the family. The pandemic has been a hell of a time for so many folks' mental health. It is nothing to be ashamed of. Whether you're conventionally contributing to society or not, please keep well, everyone. I joined this group because of an unsettling experience I posted yesterday. I need some feedback. So, me and my family are on a 2-week-long hiking trip, and we are on the last day today. We stayed in Utah for a week and Colorado for another. We have had very pleasant hiking experiences till yesterday. We went hiking around Monarch Lake in Colorado. The trail we were in went through the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forest. The forest started about 1.5 miles in, and we were in the forest for about 2 miles before returning to the lakeshore. As soon as we crossed into the forest, the sky started getting grey, almost black. But we looked back at the lake we came from, and it was still blue skies and sunny. I started getting really unsettled, and my stomach started feeling knotty. I felt that we were being watched. Not too long after that, in the forest, I saw things moving, black blobs, faster than an animal or human could move. I do have some medium traits, as I came from a family of Wicca and pagan. I can normally hear spirits, but very often it happens. I have never before heard anything quite like what I heard yesterday. It sounded like a high-pitched shrieking in my ear that none of my family members could hear. Then the stumps, they started morphing into demon-looking creatures, as if I was on some sort of psychedelic. None of my family was experiencing anything that I was, but my mum was hearing slight spirit tongue. About 1/2 mile into a hike, it started storming, but only over the Arapahoe. The whole hike, we did not see or hear any sign of wildlife, not even a bird or chipmunk. I started speed walking as fast as I could to get out of there. My family caught up to me, and we passed a boulder field, a large boulder field. If you're familiar with 411, then you know what a boulder field is. I got the worst feeling as we passed the boulder field. I don't recall most of it, but my family said I was very pale and disoriented. I can't help but think this experience may have had to do with something of a missing 411 theory. What do you guys think? Has anyone experienced anything similar? Or know what this means? I don't care if anyone believes me or not. I just need to get this off my chest for me and myself. With that out of the way, hello. I am a 16-year-old girl from the Atlantic Sea Star, and I have a real missing 411 story for you. I was hiking deep in the mountains in a remote and peaceful village. The weather was quiet, normal, and very calm, sunny with a few puffy clouds slowly drifting by. The wind blew through the trees, making a soft swishing sound, with all the leaves shaking in the air. The wind was nice and cool as it came down from the mountains. The humidity was pretty high, but the cool wind kept me from sweating. I decided to go hiking down some red dirt roads on my island nation and go deep into the Pecan Vista Mountains for a beautiful hike that would be like no other. When I got far away from the village where I started and all I heard was birds, I began picking up my pace. I had to walk 17 miles over big hills and fallen logs, and underneath tall pine trees and Washington palms. I was camping during the night and running during the day. On day 2, I had covered 8 more miles and I was 9 miles away from the spot where my friends were going to pick me up. I began running faster and faster, excited to get there. I occasionally took a break to drink some water from my pack. Suddenly the wind stopped blowing and the birds went quiet, and the whole forest stood still. At first I didn't notice anything, but after a few seconds I realized that I couldn't have come past a predator because even the wind was not blowing. I blacked out and woke up in hospital. People told me I freaked out and had a heart attack when the wind stopped, and that's why I was there. The weird thing is, they found me all the way down at sea level on a beach on the other island at Archipelago, about 50 miles each of where I blacked out, but it only happened 2 hours and 45 minutes later. I am so creeped out right now. My son, who is now 14, told me when he was outside playing by the pond in our backyard that it got really, really quiet. He couldn't hear anything at all, but then he started to hear music coming from behind the pond. This is not a rural area. It is Jacksonville, Florida, but the pond is backed up into a wooded area, possibly a preserve. He said the music played and he followed it to the back side of the pond. There he met what he described as shadow children. At that time he said they didn't talk, but they played with him. He said they played tag first, but then built rock towers. Then he said they started to play hide and seek, and he was the seeker. He saw one and he started to chase it. He said it tripped over a rock and fell, so he stopped because all of the other shadows came out and surrounded it. Then 2 larger shadow people, he described them as being as big as a house, came out and sort of scolded him. He said it was a menacing feeling, like they were angry and it was his fault. He got scared and ran back to our house. He told me all of this ordeal, which sounded like it would have taken at least an hour with all the playing and different games that they played, but he had been outside for maybe 5 minutes while I was putting my swimsuit on because I was going to get a tan and let him play outside. He was tired and even took a nap after. I didn't discredit his story, as he isn't and never has been a liar. He has always had this whole Gryffindor Harry Potter persona about him, so I just knew he wasn't making it up. It bothered me a lot, but I didn't bring it back up, other than to ask if he had seen them ever again. He didn't, and even said he wished that they would come back because they were so much fun to play with. A few years later, when he was 10, I asked him if he remembered the Shadow Kids and the music. Older now, he said that he did, and that it was all real too, that he remembered playing with them for hours, and that he thought it was odd at the time because I wasn't even worried about him. He thought he was going to be in trouble when he got back, but he was having so much fun. We talked about it a little, and I asked him what they looked like. He told me that they were like shadows, but also like smoke. They weren't black, they were transparent, but also able to be seen. He says it's hard to describe it, but the closest thing he can really think of is a mist or smoke. I read all of these crazy encounters on this website, and I couldn't believe the similarities. The silence, the music, the transparent figures, the loss of time. Yesterday was my first time reading it on here and Reddit, but I have been hooked because of my son's personal experience. I just asked him if he remembered it, and he first tried to do the whole "Mum, it was just temporary schizophrenia," because it embarrasses him now, I guess. When I told him I was asking because of a bunch of people that had had the same experience happen to them, he eased up and then started talking about it again. He said the music wasn't scary and that it was nice. He again described the misty, smoky transparency of the Shadow Kids and how much the big ones scared him. This time he added it was dark when he ran home, and he went to bed. Not sure if that was what he experienced at the time or his memory from being scared made him think it was dark. But he did go straight to sleep. However, it was a sunny afternoon in the Florida sun. We are also of German ancestry. My grandfather was a full German. His parents immigrated to the US from Luxembourg. My son was 6 years old when all of this happened. We moved to a new home a few weeks after this experience, and it never happened again. Edit. I forgot to add, he said the silence made him think that he went deaf at first. He couldn't hear anything until the music started playing. The music played the whole time until he ran back into the house. Second edit. I didn't really want to mention this at first because the difference in experiences made me think they were unrelated. Now that I've posted this and started looking past the possibility of ghosts and into different possibilities, but I think it might be worth also noting. This part is a first-hand account that I will never forget. The year before my son's encounter, I was asleep in my bedroom with my Boston Terrier, Delago. In the middle of the night, I woke up because I heard a loud crack. It sounded as if a large piece of plywood fell onto a tile floor. I sat up and so did my dog. My bedroom was shaped in a way where the doorway is sunken in. The shape is kinda similar to that of the state of Alabama, if Alabama had straight edges, with the southeast corner of the state being where my bedroom door was. I looked towards my door because I was going to get up and see what fell. My husband was on the couch in our living room playing video games on the other side of the wall. It was a small 900 square foot apartment and I could hear the TV. I'll be damned if when I looked towards the door I saw something standing there. I tried to adjust my eyes because my room was pretty dark. My bedroom window was large, but it was facing a wooded area, so there wasn't any moonlight or lights of any kind. My eyes focused and I could tell it was a man. I said my husband's name, thinking he was trying to scare me. I didn't get an answer. This man stepped out of the doorway, and that's when I realized it wasn't anyone I knew. This person was at least 7 feet tall. Looked like a guy wearing normal clothes and a hat, like maybe a baseball cap. It was dark, but I definitely saw a person. My dog saw it too, and he stared, growling. That's when the good old cliché overwhelming sense of dread came over me. It was like it poured over me like water. I went from being curious to full adrenaline pumping. The dog was the confirmation I needed to snap me into survival mode. My thoughts were going 1,000 miles per hour. I darted my gaze at our bedroom door, which was also shut, and I knew I couldn't book it in time before the guy closed in. I had nothing near me I could use as a weapon, and this guy was so big he was taking up all the space in front of my closed bedroom door. The dog stood up next to me and started barking like crazy. I did the only thing I could manage, and that was start shouting. I screamed, asking who it was and what they were doing in my room. No answer. They just stepped closer. Their arms were bowed, and he was sort of hunched over like he was coming to strangle me. As he inched forward, the thought crossed my mind that my husband hadn't responded to me yelling and the dog barking yet, and the fact that this person had somehow gotten past him undetected was a physical impossibility. I immediately thought this tall freak was someone that broke in to kill us and they had already gotten my husband, and that I was next. I wasn't going down without a fight, however, and I remember thinking he's going to have to overkill me because I'm not going down like this. I started screaming bloody murder for anyone that could possibly hear me. The man still silent and still getting closer. I'm sizing him up, thinking maybe if he gets close enough I can kick him and run out the door. I realized that the way I was sitting wasn't going to be a good position for that, so I started to adjust myself, all while still screaming. Suddenly there is light. My husband, my saving grace, comes tearing through the door and turns on the light. He's yelling, "What's going on? Who is it?" frantically looking around the room. I tell you no lies when I say this giant 7-foot tall, scary-ass serial killer man evaporated right in front of my eyes. It wasn't like the lights turned on and nothing was there. The thing slowly dissipated right in front of me. I watched it fade away, just like you would see a ghost in the movie, but this was more 3D. Sort of like water mist, if you had ever been into a water park or a theme park where they have those misters that cool you off. It had on what looked like normal clothes, like a shirt and jeans. I remember either a hat or the shirt looked sort of orange, but he had no face. It was maybe 2 feet away from me. hand stretched out like it was going to grab me. I could see my husband through it, and then it was gone. I have never been so shook in my entire life. I was shaking and crying. My husband was so confused. He thought that I just had a bad dream. Our neighbor called the police because of my screaming, and I had to tell the cops that I had a nightmare. To this day, I know I wasn't asleep. I know the difference between half dreaming and being asleep and dreaming. Dogs can't see your dreams either. I was so scared that night, I shook uncontrollably for hours. I had literally been terrified to the point I couldn't stop trembling, which was something that had never happened before. And I've had a rough life with plenty of scary real-life happenings. I couldn't sleep at all that night, and I couldn't fall asleep by myself for years after.
Kia ora kahoa. Grim here. And today I have to thank you for coming along and listening to these missing 411 tales. As you can probably tell, this one was very special as it featured one of my best friends in the field, my brother in horror, Phoenix Fire. He did an amazing job as always, and you will find his details in the description below, so please have a quick look for those and see if you can find something more interesting that you like. Alternatively, if you like today's tale, please like and subscribe. I'll be more than happy to have you come along. Well, I won't drag this out. Thank you so very much one last time. Be safe wherever you are. Have yourself a good day or night. And this is Grim, and I'm, well, signing off.